Hey, what is happening everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today is January 4th, 2018, so happy late New Year to you guys. Now some of you have probably noticed that I haven't been uploading much during the past month, and the reason for that is because I have moved into a new different room. But I'll have a room tour on my third channel, Kommando, where I'll actually utilize this room to be able to make more videos for this channel, the VR Kommando channel, as well as my third fun channel, Kommando. That is where all my projects and DIY stuff, custom builds, modifications, and all that kind of fun stuff that I want to do. So if you guys are interested to see where I'm going to be leading that channel and seeing what kind of stuff I have in the works, then you can feel free to follow me on that channel. Link will be in the description below. Anyways, without further ado, let's finally get into the Chuwi notebook. Alright, so inside this box right here, we're going to find the power adapter as well as the 3-prong cable. And what we have here is a 12 volt at 3 amps with the standard 12-volt connector right here. And then we have the laptop itself, and right under it we got some manuals and stuff. We're going to be taking a look at that just real quick. Yep, nobody wants to see that. So yeah, from the specs themselves, you can probably consider this to be the ultimate Apollo-like laptop. And that is because it has a backlight keyboard and a really awesome sleek looking design. Basically, it's an Apollo-like laptop with 128GB of eMMC storage, 8GB of DDR3 RAM, and a 1080p IPS 14.1 inch panel. Now, the surprising thing is, if you watch my channel, you probably know that I really have a problem with Chuwi. They always throw very high resolution displays. Don't get me wrong, they're great displays, but they throw them on low-powered Apollo-like CPUs, which is pretty bad. But what we have here is a damn good-looking laptop. And check that out, a really deep keyboard. We got these keys, and they have a ton of travel distance, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to be testing that out in just a bit here, but yeah, I gotta say, it actually feels pretty nice. And the fact that it is backlit is just pretty awesome. But anyways, a quick look at the ports here. What we have here on the left side is a mini HDMI port, the charging LED, the charging port, as well as an SD card slot. And on the right side, we got two USB 3.0 ports, as well as a headset jack. On top, it seems like we got a glowing Chuwi logo. And finally, on the bottom, what we have here is another M.2 slot. So you can expand the storage with another SSD, and yeah, you can actually upgrade this laptop. Alright, so fast forward to the next day, and here is what I think about this thing. So at first impressions, when you first take a laptop like this and hold it in your hands, it may look and feel like a really premium device, which it does feel like it until you actually try to open up the lid. And that's when you're going to notice some crackling going on in the back. Take a listen. Seems like the hinge here is not perfectly set up, so when you do open it, you hear a lot of crackling going on, and it's present as well when you do this. You may not encounter this, but for the price that you're paying, you should be getting something much more sturdier. But compared to the EasyBook 3 Pro, which is almost half price, it doesn't have that issue. So again, that could be just my unit here. That said, when you do open it up, you'll notice that the laptop looks pretty nice. The screen itself, the brightness levels are good enough. They are not super bright, but they're also not super dim. The colors are pretty great as well. Blacks are blacks and whites are whites. And overall, really, it's a pretty good display to consume content on. But moving on to the keyboard itself here, it's actually pretty good. The spacing is pretty good. The travel distance is really nice and deep. It's a pretty good layout. We got the page up and page down, home and end keys, as well as a pretty good set of arrow keys. And overall, it's a pretty good keyboard to type on. But that does not mean that the keyboard here is flawless. The backlight here, as you guys can see, not only is not that bright, but it is also very inconsistent. You can tell that the keys here are mostly the brightest keys, and then pretty much everything around it here, it's not as bright. And there's a whole lot of variation. Again, if you take a look at it from this angle, you can see that the backlights are showing up, and some people don't like that because it can get very distracting. But that's fine, at least we do have a backlight keyboard. It's not perfect. It does make a difference at night. It really helps. For example, here's what it looks like. So it does make a difference, so it is nice that it is there, but again, it's not perfect. And really the only other issue that I had, which is kind of a major issue, is that the shortcut keys, the FN keys up top here, are not configurable. So they are locked to what they are, and you cannot choose between which default keys you want to use, whether you want to use FN keys or you want to use the function keys by default. For example, in other keyboards usually have the escape SD lock button, which will let you switch between those. But unfortunately here, what we have is the escape button, and right beside it we have a sleep button, which we cannot disable. And if you want to use the F1 key, then you have to press the FN key right here, and then press F1 if you want to press F1. But we do have some useful keys right here, so we have the volume controls, as well as the brightness, Wi-Fi, and of course the disable touchpad key. So these are the two main issues that I had. The backlight is not perfect, and the keys here are not configurable. They are locked to what they are, so if you accidentally hit the F1 key, yeah, you're gonna have your computer sleep on you. But overall, it's a good keyboard to type on. Now if we go ahead and move on to the touchpad, it's also not perfect. You can notice there's a lot of delay going on, And if you try to do any precise movements like that, you can clearly see that the mouse cursor is not very responsive. So if you try to do some very accurate pointing, then you may encounter some problems. Since the touchpad here, it's not perfect. The clicks here are only on the bottom, so if you go up top, there are no clicks. They're also not very consistent, so the right and left clicks sound very different and feel very different. Here's what it sounds like. Here's the left click, and here's the right click. So you can see what they sound like. So yeah, it is a good enough touchpad to browse, but if you try to do anything very specific like highlighting words, then you'd probably want to get yourself a wireless mouse or something. It's not very accurate. Let's quickly switch over to the ports here. The SD card slot here is at 2.0 speeds, as you probably expect from these kind of laptops. The screen out of the box, as you probably noticed, and probably being annoyed, you do get a screen protector thing to cover your laptop, so you can take that off if you want, or you can keep it on and protect your screen. And yes, it does come with a few dust particles under the screen protector. You might get lucky and get a screen without any dust particles under the screen protector, but oh well. And one last thing about the outside, let's take a look here, and that is the Chuwi logo. So if you go ahead and turn off the lights, you can see that the Chuwi logo glows, which is pretty cool. And probably if you're at a cafe or something, or at school, people are going to be like, what is this thing? It's Chuwi. Now let's go ahead and move on by talking about the performance, starting with the storage device. So what we have here is a 128GB SanDisk drive. It's an eMMC drive, and the read-write speeds are to be expected. They're not SSD speeds, but they're good enough and will get the job done. Now one interesting thing about this laptop is that they have actually split the drive between two partitions, the C drive being 40GB and the D drive having the rest of it, which is 75.8GB. Now I kind of find that to be unnecessary because the C drive will probably get full real quick over time with updates and whatnot, and for a drive that size it shouldn't have been partitioned. Now you should be able to easily change that by going into disk management and merging them back on, but yeah, it's something interesting. So that's pretty much it for the storage. Now let's go ahead and talk about the speakers here. So the speakers here are very similar to the EasyBook 3 Pro, which were pretty good. Overall, they were pretty loud and pretty clear. They weren't going to blow anything out of the water, but they were still good enough for video consumption and regular everyday to-day use without much complaint. This one, on the other hand, was very similar, again, but anything over 70%, depending on what you're playing, you might encounter some very minimal distortion of the speakers when certain sounds are played. So it's not a perfect speaker, it's good enough for regular video, but again, depending on what you're playing, you might encounter some distortion. But with that said, here's a quick audio sample at full volume. Alright, so initially when I got this laptop out of the box, it was actually pretty sluggish. While doing internet browsing, whether it was gaming, it was pretty slow. And I found the EasyBook 3 Pro to be actually faster, until I've actually disabled the power limit in the BIOS on the CPU, and then restarting the computer, and that's when I actually got the performance that I was expecting from a laptop like this. And surely enough, it actually helped a ton. And while doing browsing, again, it was actually much faster now. And in games, in some cases, we were actually getting double the frame rates, which was pretty great. But when you do turn off the power limit on the CPU, you will increase the heat. Now, initially, you were getting 45 degrees Celsius out of the box, but after disabling the power limit, you would be getting somewhere around 60 while doing regular Chrome browsing. That is just something to keep in mind, but even with the extra heat that you're getting, I would still recommend doing this mod out of the box when getting this laptop. And if you guys are wondering, it gets hot around this area of the laptop, and yes, it does get warm here before and after when doing the power limit change. So that's that. Browsing and regular work, perfectly fine. It does what you need, and it's pretty great. So yeah, can you game? Yes. Is it good enough for regular day use? Absolutely, especially with the 8 GB of RAM. You could probably do some light Photoshop and Lightroom work, but that is about it. So should you get this thing? Well, honestly, for the price point, it's a bit too much, but other than that, I would only recommend getting this laptop when it's on sale or when there's a coupon. We still don't have a Type-C port or Type-C charging. Somewhere around $300 to $350 I would say is a good price for this thing, but anything more and I don't think you should get this thing. Instead, you should get the EasyBook 3 Pro because it's pretty much exactly the same. You got an IPS 1080p panel and all that good stuff except for a backlit keyboard, and the BIOS is not unlocked. And that's pretty much the difference between these two other than looks. Yeah, I'll leave links for everything that I've talked about in the description below if you guys are interested. I would totally recommend it over this thing since that one doesn't have any major heat coming out of it. It manages the heat very well and it performs absolutely fantastic. It pretty much mimics this laptop, again, except for the backlit keyboard. And honestly, that is the biggest difference that I see between these things. Oh, and you do get a better touchpad. And that is actually pretty much it for this video, so let me guys know what you think about this laptop. It looks nice, but the build quality isn't perfect. Again, you can hear the crackling. And what do you know, Windows updates, great. And it could be just that my unit has that crackling issue. But anyways, that is actually pretty much it for this video, so thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe for content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.